The Bulls are actually worse off than the Pistons. Why? Because at least Detroit has tradable young players and a potential top pick next year. The Bulls, the most toxic asset in Zach LaVine, probably another mediocre draft pick. So how did they get out of this mess? That's why this offseason is so important. Did you know Chicago hasn't made a trade in 3 years? Every time we think they'll tear it down, they run it back. It's a big reason why Bulls fans are so fed up with this team. They had a chance to trade Zach LaVine before he got injured. Could have cashed in Alex Caruso for multiple picks. A last shot to deal DeMar DeRozan before free agency. But instead, they held on. For what? To be a competitive team? How did that work out? And we all know where it was headed. But at this point, forget the past. What can they do right now to finally turn it around? It starts with trading Zach LaVine. If I search my name on Google, which I do every day, a lot of stuff comes up. And honestly, that's kind of sketch. Because data brokers sell our information to scammers and spammers and anyone else who might want to target us. That's why I have been using Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura shows me which data brokers are selling my info and automatically submits opt-out requests for me. Cleaning up my information not only helps reduce the amount of spam that I get, but it protects me from hackers who could use this info. In fact, AT&T revealed that over 73 million customer records, existing and former, were released on the dark web. They recommend people affected use strong passwords, monitor account activity, and consider credit freezes or fraud alerts from credit bureaus. Well, Aura does all of that for me. And best of all, I don't have to download several different apps just because a company couldn't keep my data secure. If my info was compromised in the AT&T data breach, I wouldn't worry because Aura is always on, always doing the hard work of keeping me safe. I value my privacy and I value yours. So go to aura.com/amhoops to start your 2-week free trial. Aura.com/amhoops, also linked in the description. They got Zach in 2017 by dealing Jimmy Butler. This was after the Derrick Rose era crumbled and getting D-Wade and Rajon Rondo went nowhere. So Chicago finally decided to go young and rebuild. The problem is Zach was never supposed to be a number one type player. In his one playoff run, he averaged 19 points a game, bounced in the first round by Milwaukee. In last year's play-in, 0 points in the fourth quarter. I think of Zach like an Aaron Gordon. The Magic hoped he would be like a new LeBron type forward. Once he got to Denver as a number 3 though, he took off. So LaVine needs a new start. The issue is his contract. Zach just happened to be coming off the best 2-year stretch of his career, back-to-back All-Star games, scored 26 a night on 40% from deep, so they had to max him out or lose him for nothing. 5 years, $215 million, which quickly became top 3 worst contracts in the NBA, with Bradley Beal and our boy Jordan Poole. Part of it is his playoff performance, part injuries, but after starting 5-14, The Athletic reported both sides wanted to trade. The issue, ain't nobody want that awful contract. Oh, the Pistons were interested before his season-ending foot injury. So where can he go now? Well, it's clear that the Bulls are way better off without Zach. As soon as he went down, Coby White flourished. At one point, we thought Coby was guaranteed getting traded. They got him with the 7th pick in 2019. But after being inconsistent, it was a foregone conclusion Coby was out after they got Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, and Ayo Dosunmu at guard. Then, all of a sudden, Coby broke out in year 5. He became their go-to scorer last year without LaVine. Amazing handles, could stop and start like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. One of the best 3-level scorers, great from 3 and the rim. So it ended with a top 2 finish for most improved. Clearly, Coby is their future. Also, not a number 1 player. We will get to who that will be for the Bulls later, but how do they move LaVine? Well, there are 3 main teams involved. We have to include the Pistons, who previously had interest. Also, The Athletic says LeBron James was also in support of the Lakers trading for DeJounte Murray or Zach LaVine, 2 Clutch Sports clients in the weeks and months leading to the 2024 trade deadline. So put the Lakers in there. Then the Sixers. They have max cap space, meaning they wouldn't have to send any players back. Philly wants Paul George first, then LeBron, then Jimmy Butler, and Brandon Ingram. But striking out on all of those would also leave the door open for Philly to consider taking back a player such as Zach LaVine, sources said. In the event that Chicago or another team is willing to attach draft capital to move off his salary. That is the real problem. To get rid of Zach, they're gonna have to give away a draft pick too? No, I would be shocked if Chicago moved him because of that. Other teams want one of their picks, that's crazy. They would be trading Zach at his all-time low value. Yes, he has flaws, but he's still a 29-year-old all-star. Their best move by far is to revamp his trade value at the beginning of next year, then trade him at the deadline. So what can they do before that? Is this whole thing just some ugly run it back forever? No, we just got some very interesting Lonzo news. Zoe posted a video of him not just running and jumping, but dunking. Why is that a big deal? Because we haven't seen Lonzo in an NBA game in over 2.5 years. Can you believe that? He then confirmed the knee issue started in 2018 with the Lakers. His Zoe 2 shoes kept ripping, and around that time he tore his meniscus. Now he has 0 cartilage in that left knee. So after 3 surgeries, doctors said your career is over, or we can try a wild experiment. Zoe underwent a meniscus transplant surgery where some dead guy gave up his meniscus. They also added cartilage. It's a rare procedure, especially in pro athletes, but Zoe is ready to play day 1 next season. Now, before he got injured, the Bulls were #1 in the East. He and Alex Caruso were great defenders, and DeMar DeRozan hit big shots. So, getting Zoe back on the Bulls could be another shot to see if the old plan works after all. So there is some hope for Bulls fans here, but there are still 2 huge players to deal with. First, Patrick Williams. The Bulls hoped that he would become a star from the #4 pick in 2020, but that never panned out. Instead, he has been inconsistent and was up for an extension, but instead the Bulls said, no, prove it last year, and he got injured halfway through. Now they have to decide, is Pat worth giving a new contract? What other players does he even compare to? Jaden McDaniels and Devin Vassell got paid in like the mid-20 millions, or is he more like Denny Avila who got 14 million? Will Pat even accept that? Or what if another team swoops in with their cap space and pays him a ton, like the OKC Thunder? They have tons of cap space and they could use P. Will. Now, Chicago does have the right to match, but what would they do? He is a 3-and-D role player, hits 41% from deep, and a go-to defender on wings. His problem is being inconsistent. The other player is DeMar DeRozan. He can get a max contract of 3 years, $129 million. Sounds crazy because he's 35 years old, but dude almost always plays in 92% of Bulls games. And if they want to compete, they have to get him back. But the real question is, how do you get that #1 player? A lot of people say they should just tank, but there's a big problem with that. The draft now is a ridiculous crapshoot. Just look at this upcoming draft. Who got the #1 pick? The Atlanta Hawks, who had a 3% chance of getting there. Or the Detroit Pistons. They're horrible every year, fall down to the #5 pick. These days, tanking isn't actually a real strategy anymore. The Bulls have to either hope a superstar becomes available, like a Giannis or Zion Williamson, or capitalize on someone's mistake, like how OKC got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or how Tyrese Halliburton fell in the draft. Until then, the Bulls are in a holding pattern. Not good enough to really win, but not bad enough to get lucky for that top pick. A crazy plan would be drafting Bronny James. Right now, Laker fans absolutely hate his dad, LeBron. And a big reason is LeBron forcing them to take his son, but it goes so much deeper than that.